Alrighty, hello and welcome back to the Sweat Capital podcast. Today I'm joined by Nick Palumbo, founder and CEO of Messina. Thank you very much for joining us, Nick.
Thank you for having me.
We're very grateful to have you here. We love to start off all of our podcasts with the same question, and that is, what was your first job and what did it kind of teach you for life?
My very first job was a car park attendant. I was like 14.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was 14 years of age. You know what it was? It was a leg Grand Prix. There was a guy that had some patch of dirt really close to the track, and was looking for someone to run the car park, and it was capitalism at its best. It was $2 for Thursday, and it became $5 on Friday, and then by Sunday race day it was like $25 back in them.
Good.
It was up to me to determine supply and demand. Because I got a commission on he didn't pay me. I just got a commission on how many cars I could park in there. So it was fun.
Yeah, you get to drive some cool cars, I imagine.
No. Not all let me drive. No.
All right.
No, it was my very very first income.
That's amazing. And apologies for having a bit of gelato to start the podcast. I
carry the other way.
Yeah. Awesome. And so growing up in Adelaide, what was that like? Like, there's a bit different place to here.
Look, I love Adelaide. I'm proud to be from South Australia. I think when I was a kid, I remember kind of like this kind of jostling for who was going to be Australia's second largest city between Melbourne and Adelaide, because Sydney was in this league of its own. But then by the time I became a teenager, Melbourne just went into the stratosphere, really.
Wow.
And Adelaide, in my opinion, kind of stayed where it was, didn't really progress much. But I have to say, in the last 5-6 years, I've seen such a huge difference in Adelaide. Like I left because he could be big enough to do a standalone gelateria. And so that was the real calling to Sydney, because I just wanted to do that and only that, not a cafe that had gelato by. But yeah, going back now to Adelaide, it's a completely different city, and it's definitely on the bud. Like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, Unley's a great place.
Yeah.
No, Nick, very small world, isn't it? And Nick, and so driving the move to Sydney, obviously we're not all as lucky as Lulu and grow up here. So some of us have to get up and move.
How are you going with that at the moment?
Yeah. But yeah, for context, I've managed to break my foot in 4 places, which is a little bit frustrating, but we soldier on.
AFL.
Yeah, exactly. Very high standard of AFL as well. Yeah, but in the context of the move to Sydney, how'd you find that as a young person? Like, what age did you decide to make the leap?
I was 30, and it was funny because I was in the restaurant industry for a while in Adelaide. Basically from about 19, 20 years of age through to 30, and knowing everybody in the industry, knowing all the chefs, know everyone, and then moving to Sydney and knowing absolutely no one. It was like from hero to zero, like the space of 3 days. But it was actually really good. It was grounding because, I was nobody here in Sydney, and it just kind of like I was able to put my head down and just, It took me 3 years from when I landed in Sydney to when I opened the Darlinghurst store, simply because I just could not come to terms with the rents in Sydney. I just couldn't understand how people were paying these kind of rents. And then you've finally worked up the courage to do it, and we opened Darlinghurst in 2002. I moved here in 99. Yeah.
During those 3 years, what were kind of the first steps?
Yeah, what are you doing?
It was great because from a social perspective, because I was 30 and was trying to set up this business, and I wasn't attached to a business, so there was this sense of freedom. But at the same time, growing up as a kid, the way I describe myself is, I'd get drunk and have a laugh with my mates, but I was always that guy that knew how to get home.
Yeah.
So even while I was having all this fun moving to Sydney, nightlife, partying and stuff, in the back of my mind, the fact that I didn't have a business, especially you put up, right? People always lot of and I remember it was a good thing or a bad thing, and I always felt like I always cheat myself that I didn't have a responsibility of running in creating a business, because I've done that since I was a kid. So it was a good 3 years. I don't regret having done that because it really was the only 3 years of my life, really, where I was free, right? But in the back of my mind, there was always a sting, get off your ass. You need to open it. But it took me 3 years. Yeah.
So when you say you weren't attached to anything, is that like you weren't attached to a business, or you weren't attached to the idea of making a gelato business, or?
No, I knew I came just into the gelato business, right?
Thank you.
But I was employed. I worked for Ferrero. I had a mate of mine here in Sydney. He was the sales director, and he said, "Oh, why you're setting up your business? Why don't you come and join the corporate world?" And that was incredible because I'd never really been employed before. I've kind of been self-employed my entire life, even from a young age. And so it was the first time I got a taste of proper employment. I got, work covered, superannuation, stuff like that. That's right on your eye should. Oh, it was hilarious. And it was great working for a multinational company like Ferrero. It actually, I have to say, I think it was actually, when I think about it, it had a huge influence on how I then set up Messina. In the back of my mind, I always knew what I wanted to do, how I wanted to set it up. But that 3-year break really gave me this insight into how multinationals work. And I have to say, I learned a lot of things, but I also learned a lot of things of what not to do, working for a multinational company, So it was really a 50-50. I thought it was great. I thought it was excellent. I loved my time there. I love the people there.
And so pulling the trigger on opening your first store and paying, those landlords, their ridiculous rents. Talk us through that risk, and how you got comfortable.
It's really funny. I've always, with risk, it's funny because I don't come from a family of risk takers. I'm the only one in my family that's really got involved in business. But I've just always had this philosophy that just build it and it will come. And I don't know why.
Field of dreams.
I got it from. It was just one of those things where I just thought, I'm not scared of working hard. So in my mind, working hard fixes everything, and, obviously the first few years were pretty challenging, horrible actually. But I just had this thing in my head that if you just keep pounding, people will get it, and luckily they finally did.
What makes you think of them as horrible in some way?
Just the financial stress of being a business, not being able to meet payroll, not being able to pay suppliers. Hospitality's horrible. You have to, it's not that I don't want people to come into our industries, but seriously, I see people coming into our industry that have got a craft or corporate. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Why would you come into this industry? It's my heart. But I don't know anything else. This is what I know is hospitality, right? So, and I love it. It's one of those things you either love or you don't. But it's a tough kick. At the end of the day, every industry I would say has its, it can be difficult. But hospitality, there's just so many moving parts to hospitality. And there's all these things that you need to get right. And if just one thing goes wrong, it just undermines the entire operation.
Yeah. I heard you talk about bringing Messina to Australia, that the consumer behaviors, we're all Buffalo Bill fans and the Macron lovers.
That was why I singled out Gelato, because it was twofold. So I'm not a chef, right? So if I have to be really, really honest, Messina exists because of an inferiority complex, right? Because all my mates were chefs, right? And I wasn't. I was in hospitality, but as an owner in cafes and restaurants, behind the scenes with like doing the books on the floor, all that kind of stuff. But I was never not a qualified chef. So in my mind, I thought, what can I do that I can kind of own in this country that's not being done well? And I can tell you, in 2002. Gelato was not that well. and it all came together because Sicilian background from Messina, and I have this standing joke that I say, consistently, you either become a pastry chef or you join the mafia, bro. It's not like that now. And you've done both, Nick. It's not like that now, but back in the day, that's what it was like. Is you're a farmer, you're a pastry chef, or you join the mafia, right? So
That's awesome.
I'm being a bit silly. It's not like that, but that's how. In my mind, my grandfather was this real hardcore foodie. Sicilians wake up in the morning and the first thing they discuss is what they're eating for lunch, and at lunch they discuss what they're going to be eating for dinner. He was a hardcore foodie. My first trip to Sicily at the age of 9, he introduced me to the world of Sicilian patisserie and gelato and stuff like that. So it kind of there was this thing from my head since I was a kid. Wow, it just was ingrained. And then, gelato was not represented well in Australia. And I thought, this is just a perfect opportunity to do something that I can kind of take my learnings from the restaurant industry, and feed that into gelato. And I think now it's just normal, but in 2002, no one was doing gelato from a restaurateur's perspective. It was basically you'd make a base mix and then you would flavor it with whatever flavors you could buy from Italy as a paste form with coloring and flavoring and all that stuff. Whereas the approach that we took was, if it was mango, then it had to have mango in it. If it was hazelnut, they had to have proper hazelnut paste, pistachio, whatever. And again, this is all normal run-of-the-mill stuff today, but in 2002 it wasn't. It was and then of course formulating. When you're using natural ingredients, you have to formulate every recipe completely different, because different ingredients have different fat percentages, different sugar percentages, and that affects how it manifests itself in the cabinet. But it's sort of harder. So there is a science behind it. So a lot of trial and error. And I learned how to use a computer basically because Excel by formatting recipes. That's what otherwise I still don't think other than email, and I use Excel. That's it. But that's that back then. Again, I keep saying this because now anyone listens to this now and goes, well, of course, how else would you do it? But being really honest with you, 2002, nobody was.
Wow.
So with that in mind, how did you know that the market were going to value it?
That's the reason why I came to Senior. I thought Adelaide was too small to do a standalone.
Okay.
And I didn't want to do a cafe that just had job. It had to be a standalone. And so to this day, it's all we do. We don't have, we dabble with a bit of coffee here and there in some of the stores. And now that we've got show baking as part of the group, a couple of chefs that branched out and wanted to do that. We're doing a couple of stores with them in there as well. But as a retail store, Messina, it's just gelato. That's it.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Were there any lessons you learned in changing the consumer behavior along the way?
It was hard at the beginning because people would come past and I'd literally see them standing outside a shop. And it's so funny. I mean, it was only, 24, 25 years ago, but a lot of people didn't know what gelato was. They just assumed it was like an ice water, like a sorbet, like a lemon sorbet water base, They didn't realize or appreciate that it was, can be creamy and, dairy based and stuff. So, but slowly, only one customer at a time, we got traction.
I'll throw myself in that bucket, to be honest, about not knowing the difference between gelato and ice cream and like the nuance in what makes it so special. And to the point now, Messina Jane Street's the one I think of in Brisbane, and the line there, I kid you not, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it is out the door.
I love that store. I love that location. It's an honor to be part of that Khalil that hotel and stuff is just, it's the first store I ever decided to sign a lease on. Not sure if the business would do well. I just wanted to be part of that development because I just loved that design. And it luckily started off it wasn't great at the beginning, but now it's decent.
Yeah, people in Brisbane will know that used to be a bit of a like rough area, and then now it's just this like high end fashion. Think like Paddington sort of like vibe. Anyway, yeah, no, the customer experience though that sort of Lulu touched on and how you've formed it, like there's a lot of science that must go into how you guys think about, lighting, sounds in the stores, those sorts of things. We'd love to learn a bit more about that science.
Look, I mean, it still amazes me today. People open up businesses in our industry, and you walk in, and it's just like 4,000, 5,000 Kelvin lighting. It's like looks like a butcher. Fired it up. It just cracks me up. So look, I'm slightly like a frustrated architect, and I love design. And so one of the things that we try to do is make sure that every store has a completely different design. We used to do 2 or 3 that were the same, and then we would move on to another design.
From like a layout,
from a
like interior human design.
Okay. But it's been about 10 years now where it has a pretty different look and feel about it. It was just a conscious decision we made because I just didn't want to be a cookie cutter brand, right? The thing that I was always worried about in the expansion of Messina was, in America, you open up, 50 stores and you're a mom and pop operation.
Yep.
In Australia, you open up 50 stores and you've sold out, right? And kills me because like the way we make product now is probably better than what it was in 2002. There's even more care that goes into it now. But one of the ways we kind of tried to mitigate this appearing to be this big gyro company in Australian terms was by having all the fit outs kind of like completely different so that we didn't feel like this big chain of 40 stores.
You didn't want to be perceived as the multinational.
And we still, it's so funny, the equipment has gotten bigger, right? But the way we do things is the same, if not better, because now with the amount of kind of turnover we're generating, we can afford to invest in better product, better systems, better procedures to deliver a nicer product, which back in 2002, you were struggling. We're still using good ingredients, but now it's like, I'm not saying money's no object, but, our cost, we could easily shave off 30% of our cost of goods.
Wow.
If we wanted to, but would the business be the same in 10 years time, right? So
that long-term horizon, like you're forgoing. Yeah.
There's no get out, but there's no like exit strategy. So for us, we don't take on, we've grown the business through retained earnings.
That's amazing.
So all the partners, we don't take on like corporate debt or stuff like that to expand.
Who would have thought a business could fund itself?
Look, it's great, right? But and you do feel like you've accomplished something, but there are easier ways of doing it.
Quicker fixes, but yeah.
If I ever tell again, I still do it exactly the same way. There's a sense of being able to open up your own businesses and not have this mountain of debt attached to the actual physical business itself.
Lulu speaks a lot about like in your experience, like Kinzo, for example, how, they really encourage staff to own some of the store, like also some of the company. I work at a tech company, and every staff member there owns a piece of the pie, which has been so amazing. And it's like, just as an employee, I think I'd work harder because of it, which has been great.
Well, we've got 12 business partners here.
Wow.
So then I started, my brother came on and we were 50-50, and then a chef came on and we sold him some shares. And then before you know it, over the years, whenever we found someone that we believe is can become part of the family and is something to contribute, we've allowed them to come in as a fully fledged business partner. So there's about 12 of us in total, and each one of us has their own little department that they work in. There's a little bit of overlap here and there, but I found that, to me, just sharing that pie has been probably the best thing that I ever did, as opposed to just keeping it all for myself. Look, for some people, I think it's about personality. You need to know what kind of, person, what comes naturally to you. Some people could not write it. One of these for business partners, but yeah, I seem to be okay with it. I see some of the partners struggling with it as well sometimes, but in general, I think we all kind of get along, and everyone, there's no malice. I think everyone legitimately really, really cares for each other. Differences of opinion,
That's healthy though, isn't it?
Healthy, some creative differences every now and then. But, it's that our models worked well for us.
What I find so interesting is just, I guess it's the intentionality that's kind of like in your interiors to the food, to the gelato itself. How do you bring this intentionality into like your hiring process and the people, the 450 people that work for you?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because by having all these business partners, right, I've almost removed myself from that process.
As you show. It's a lot to manage.
And the one thing that I will say, and all the business partners that we have, no one's ever coming cold. They've been people that have been with Messina for a long time. And then basically the existing group of shareholders go, should we let that guy in or should we let her in? And it's like, as long as if it's unanimous, then okay, they can move.
Right.
But look, I mean, our industry, the thing that I struggle, again, it's Australia specific. In Australia, everyone in our industry, unless you're talking about a chef, right? It's transitional. Everyone's coming into the industry to earn some pocket money so that they can go off and do bigger and better things.
Yep.
So it's really, really difficult to keep really good people. But we try our best to treat them as nice as we possibly can. Make sure that we follow all the rules and regs with our time and stuff like that. So, just treat them well. There's nothing else you can really do. We've got a pretty good retention rate, though, to say it. Like, we don't have a lot of
Because it would be naturally pretty high churn. Like
usually, it's our industry is notoriously high churn. But like for us, when COVID happened, we didn't sack anyone. We basically. This is before we knew the government was going to step in. We kind of cleaned it out. So listen, there's about 3 to 4 months worth of money left. We aren't going to pay, including the owners of the business, right? And then once that's done, guys, I'm sorry, but then there's no money left. And then whatever, the government stepped in and whatever. But that was probably the best thing we ever did, because then when everything opened up, we had full team.
And everyone's rushing to Messina,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
We had full team. And so I think a lot of people that were there during that period saw how we treated them, and they were kind of, and they've stayed on. We've had, people that have come here on a 6-month, tourist visa.
Yeah.
And then we ended up figuring a way how to sponsor them. And
I reckon you've got a few of them at James Street.
and then some of them have even become business partners. Like,
Wow.
they haven't left, couldn't get rid of it.
That's awesome. They must be attracted to the gelato. No, and in terms of, you made a global comment there. Is there any ambitions to expand internationally? Like, I think when I was listening to your pod with Mark, there was Hong Kong was a place at one point.
2 in Hong Kong with a 3rd on the way. And we've got 1 in Singapore with a 2nd on the way.
Why Hong Kong and Singapore?
So we came across a company called Black Sheep, who run a whole string of restaurants and stuff in Hong Kong. Pretty successful group. I would say best in class in Hong Kong. now they're going to Singapore. And so we thought it'd be a perfect fit. So even though we're not franchised in Australia, we're all company-owned stores. For overseas, we do license agreements. So we don't actually physically own those stores. We just collect a small fee, and we make a little bit of money, not a lot, but we make a little bit of money at the cost of goods, because a lot of the stuff that we sell, also the Messina store utilizes, is quite it's not very common ingredients. Like, pistachio paste, hazelnut paste, mango puree, straw. So these are things that even in Hong Kong, they'd be almost impossible to find. And if you did run them, they'd be really expensive, right? So we supply all of that out of Australia. And they're obviously free to kind of purchase the raw materials if they can find the same for cheaper. But they think that they've been successful in doing that, so they just buy off us. So we make it like a bit of a handling fee, so it helps to pay for overheads in the factory and stuff. But we found that that's the best model for us. We, again, because we're so cash heady here, any money we make gets reinvested in the stores. The last thing we want to do is now starting to do that for overseas as well.
Yes.
Right? And so, and also the risk of taking your hard-earned money out of Australia and putting it into a country that you don't really know the laws about. So,
well, it makes a lot of sense.
Also, speaking about Mark's podcast, I heard you talk about something which I'll refer to as Messinanomics. Messinanomics, economics of ice cream. I'd love for you to explain that to everyone listening, because I found it so interesting. About when, like, a recession's coming.
Oh, that.
Oh.
Yeah. Look, well, that's like I first, like, they used to say that beer and chocolate were the two things that kind of like in a recession boo, right? But I would put ice cream in that category as well,
right?
For sure. And again, I think it makes sense when people cut back on the new car, the new house, the new relation, your holiday, or whatever. Inadvertently, if you've kept your job, right, you now you've got all this cash, because so spending $10 on ice cream all of a sudden, that's crazy. So people do trade down into smaller, more like, day by day luxury treats, as opposed to, spoiling themselves on a holiday, for example.
Okay. Messina's perfect for it too, because it's got enough of a, like, I'll throw myself under the bus here, but for example, for like a date, it is just perfect, because there's enough luxury about it that you can make someone feel like, oh, this is nice, like, blah, 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 and get out of it for, $20. It's like, just happy days.
How are we looking at the moment?
Look, this last year was tough, right? And probably a combination of things. I think I've been around since 2002, and so we've had probably, I've kind of lived through 2 waves of huge competition. And in the last year, the third wave, we've copped the third wave. So it seems, frozen yogurt is obviously now, killing it at the moment. And so we're kind of navigating that, a big shift to that. And you're actually doing a great job at what they do, compared to any previous incarnations of frozen yogurt.
Yeah.
But every chef is deciding, 10 years ago, every chef decided that to open up a burger joint. Now every chef's deciding to open up a soft serve joint. So at the moment we're just copying on a lot of competition, but like I said, this is the third wave. And so we've copped that. Economics haven't been exactly amazing. People definitely feel that, life's getting harder from an inflationary perspective.
Yeah.
So, the current year we're in has, we've seen a little bit of dip in sales, not drastic, it's probably between 3 and 4%, but that's 3 or 4% that falls on the bottom line, right? Because the only extra cost you have is the cost of goods.
Yeah.
Your wages are paid for, your rate's paid for, your electricity is paid for. So it does hurt the bottom line a bit. It's a bit of it's an outlier. So it's 3% doesn't sound like much, but it's a lot on your bottom line. But the great thing about it is that we're now, comparing May and June sales, we're up quite substantially on last year. So, of course, we've had a great June so far weather-wise. We've had people come back, to Messina, which we felt we kind of got a little bit abandoned now over the last 6 months.
Oh, we've remained loyal.
This is my fourth ice cream in June, and I've only been in the country for 5 days.
But yeah, May and June has been like, it's been a much needed surprise in quite a substantial lift in sales.
Yeah,
Last year.
The openness with, firstly, thank you for being so like, transparent into Messina, like, and delving into how you guys are seeing some trends and the openness with which you speak. I'm always a big believer that people who can speak openly about that, it comes from like a place of not necessarily comfort, but, confidence that their specialization in something will see through any wave of competition. Do you think specialization has been key to you being able to withstand the past sort of 2 waves of competition?
And then 100%. Like again, it's so easy to get derailed because you see your competition doing something and you see them being really successful, where you start questioning yourself, which I think is normal and healthy. But it always comes down to, are you doing, are you producing something beautiful and are you ripping people off, right? And if you can hand on heart say, yeah, we're doing something really nice and we're not ripping people off, I just think it's just time and then for it to come back to you.
I was just going to say, I'm reading Good to Great at the moment by Jim Collins. It's a really good book, and it talks about businesses that go, he does this analysis of listed companies in the US, and the ones that have gone from good businesses, nothing wrong with them, to great. And he identifies a few factors. One of them is you have to be able to be, you don't have to be yet, but you have to be able to be the best in the world at what you do to be great. And in doing it, best in the world at what you do and get the right people on the bus. Yeah. And it sounds somewhat like that's aligned with your...
We still, like, if I go anywhere in the world and I'll have a flavor of ice cream or gelato and I think that they're doing that flavor is better than ours, I don't think you understand. It's like freaking, can you swear this podcast?
Yeah.
Fucking damage control. Because we're just not having it. There is no way. Like 2 years ago, I mean, it's a long story, but 3 years ago, I took my kids to Italy for the first time. We're in Rome. And in Rome, near the Trevi Fountain, there's this little place that's called Limonare, right? And they do all things lemon, right? And they serve the lemon sorbet in like a lemon, right? Which sounds cool, but it's generally usually really crap, bro. Then kids are going down on one. I said, dude, you're not going to like it. It's going to be shit.
Right? Save us the hassle, bro.
And they said, please. And I said, fuck it. So we bought them one, right? And they're eating it. And just out of curiosity, I couldn't help myself. I just had to try it. And I tried it. And I literally froze. It was incredible. Like it left our lemon sorbet for dead, right? And so I went for the lady, and they were all Filipino ladies. Don't know why. And I said, "Excuse me," but I had to find out what lemons they were using. I took photos of the thing, whatever, and then we spent 6 to 8 months researching the farm where they get these lemons from the Amalfi. We found that it came from the Amalfi Coast, right? And so we found a supplier in Italy that sells that frozen as a lemon puree, pure lemon puree. Now, it killed me a bit because we were using Aussie lemons, right? Local. And I know it's not the right thing to do, the same, hey, you should use local, whatever, but I'm sorry. For me, I will use Australian ingredients every day of the week as long as it's good, right? Like, I'm not using Australian strawberries. I'm sorry. I'm just not, right? And so now we import that lemon puree, right? And again, talking about numbers, it's an extra 180 grand hit on the bottom line, right? But I don't care, like, because there's no way we cannot have that lemon sorbet. So it's one of those really weird things. And you can only do this because we don't have a board to answer to. It's us. We decide as a group of guys and girls to figure out how we're going to run this business. And so that's how we think, right?
That's awesome.
As a snapshot.
Stick think that, and if you think all the flavors that you have in store, I can't even imagine the latest you launched.
Yeah. What Lily made the point about all the flavors. Like, there is so many flavors. what are the most popular flavors that Messina sells?
Look, at the moment, so about, would have been about 10 years ago, we used to have just normal pistachio, and then we were running out of the pistachio paste that we buy from Sicily, and we had to figure out could we come up with a solution to not run out, like stretch out this pistachio paste. But so we come up with this flavor which is a pistachio praline. That would have been a good 10 years ago, I reckon. And so what we did was we used the pistachio paste we turned it into a fudge. So we stretched it out with some white chocolate stuff. But then to compensate, we would throw in whole pistachios in it, right? To compensate for the lack of pistachio. And we followed it through like a white, fior di latte base, which is like a no flavor base, right? And that's become our number one seller, and it has been for the last probably 8 years, right? It's been by far our number one seller. It used to be sold to caramel white chocolate, and then we introduced this flavor. It just completely
Nothing comes close.
Yeah, nothing. I think out of the 40 flavors, I think accounts for like 13% of our sales.
Wow.
13%.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's insane.
So we created a monster because now we need even more pistachio paste because it's the most expensive flavor we make. I should be saying this there, everyone's going to order that even more.
Yeah, that and the lemon sorbet, we rushing to get it.
But that's our by far number one flavor. And then the specials, they account for around about 25% of our sales. And they're revolving. We're going to try something different over the next 6 months to a year. I think we've been doing that now for so long. We now have a like a little war team all together where over the next it's because it'll be a big call, but over the next 6 months to a year, we're developing a way that maybe we could do the specials in a way that's even better than how we're doing it now. So that's going to be an evolutionary process where everyone's, of course, concerned. You've been doing this in a certain way for so long, but at the end, it's about products. If we can figure out a way, we know how to deliver even better product. It's just the execution is what's kind of like we got to figure out how to execute it. And if we can figure that out, and hopefully, for summer or maybe not summer, but certainly by this time next year, we'll perform that, which would be cool.
That would be insane.
Exciting.
How can it get better?
Yeah. I'm just curious as to what that's going to be.
Yeah. I do have one very pressing question. I was just in Slovenia and I went to this ice cream, which is just a gelato store, and there was so many yummy flavors. And then I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to get. And I was like, can I just try like that one? And then they said, no, you're not allowed to try the flavor. Really? So I'd love to know your thoughts. So I do know what happens in Australia as well. What are your thoughts on trying the ice cream? Because you guys are so generous with your trials.
Of course you're asking this.
The thing is, like, look, we're in the hospitality business. It's the word hospitality, right? All these rules, like, I don't understand that. Like, even our guys, we have to see, and it's easy to say when you're not in the store day in, day out, serving, 4,000 people in the store every week. Like, I get it. But ultimately, we're here to provide people with 10 minutes of enjoyment, and we have to try everything we can to make them happy, right? And if someone wants to try 4 flavors before they commit, the thing is, like, most people don't do that. They'll try one, and that's it, right? Yeah. Occasionally, you're going to get someone that try. We've had people try 6 or 7. Yeah, the thing is, they stand out, and everyone behind the counter starts going mental. It's like, but you got to put in perspective. You might get one of those every 5,000 customers. Yeah. And so what, you punish the other 5,000 that generally want to try any flavor because of that one dude that's taking the piss, right? So you're here to provide a service. You're meant to make people happy. And for me, like, it's like in software and stuff, they talk about friction, by getting rid of all the amount of friction possible. For us, it's you get rid of all these rules. You stop making up all these rules. It's just be free. Like, it makes the customers happy.
Obsessed with that attitude.
Yeah. Easy to say when you're the customer. You're the one that's trying 6 or 7. Jesus. No, it's so interesting. Like I look, Nick, thank you so much for giving us all the story and just really unique insights into Messina and even a little bit of a peek forward into some exciting things to come. Like I personally just find it amazing, the specialisation and how this has been something since you've been 9 that's as essentially manifested and then the execution layer is beyond obsessive, which is, I say that in a good way. So congrats on everything you've built. When you think back, I don't know, I'm trying to pick a point, but yeah, maybe the 30-year-old who's sort of a little bit unsure, or not unsure, but knows, he needs to be or doing something or has that feeling, and you're sort of going through the 3 years of being free. What advice are you giving to him back then?
It's an interesting question because at the time, I can only tell you why Messina is here today. I don't think it was by design, but I honestly believe that not having a plan B, right? If you want to get into your own business, right? The amount of friends I've had over the years that have got a corporate job or a decent, really well-paying job, and they want to get into business, and they kind of dabble in the business a little bit, but they're still working full time, and they're doing. Look, I'm not saying it's impossible, but your chances of success in your own business are going to be really, really diminished.
Yeah.
If you want to succeed in business, in my opinion, you can't have a plan B, because if you have a plan B, at the first hurdle in business, you're just going to shut it down and go back to what you know, right? So I didn't have that luxury. I got to Sydney, and for me, Messina had to work. There was an option because I was fucked if I was going to go and make couples for a living, because that's one you got to do, right? So there was no way I was going to be a barista for the rest of my life, right? So I had to make Messina work. There's just no choice. Not having a plan B is, for me, if you're 30 and you want to get into business, don't make the mistake of thinking, well, if this doesn't work out, I can always go back to this, because I can guarantee you're going to go back to that.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Like I go through this a bit myself, right? Like in my head, I'm sort of, you try to hedge your bets on things, and it's just not the way to do it. I'm starting to realize.
Honestly, it's a natural. I can only tell you, I didn't have the plan B, and so that's why I am telling you that's what worked for me, right? Because I got to say, if there was a plan B, I would have taken it. Like this business, kind of nearly sent me broke twice, but long story, but it was difficult, really hard, but and I just had no choice.
That's awesome. I love that answer. Thank you.
Yeah, grateful you kept finding through, because I'm there every week.
No, literally Monday. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you. It's an honor. Thank you for thinking. See that.